Amanda James had stopped dreaming a long time ago. Dreams didn't pay bills. Dreams didn't keep the lights on. And dreams didn't keep her landlord from slipping another overdue notice under her apartment door. Most days, all she did was survive. 12-hour shifts at Dockside Diner. Cheap takeout she ate standing at her kitchen counter. Collapsing into bed, only to do it all over again the next morning. Before we dive deeper into Amanda's story, let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heart-touching stories like this one. By now, her life was a pattern she'd stopped trying to break. Wake up, work, count tips, pay bills, repeat. The only excitement came in small bursts, an extra $5 tip from a kind stranger, a day when her manager wasn't barking orders, or the rare luxury of a quiet evening alone with a used paperback she'd picked up for 50 cents. It was just another Thursday night when he walked in. The bell above the diner door chimed, the same tired sound Amanda had heard 1,000 times, but this time it made her look up. The man was tall. Broad-shouldered. Clean, precise movements that spoke of a man used to control. His suit was dark, expensive. His shoes looked like they'd never once touched dirt. He didn't belong here, not in a tired diner with cracked vinyl booths and menus that stuck together if you weren't careful. But there he was, sliding into table 7 like he'd been there 100 times before. Table 7, Darlene muttered, elbowing Amanda as she passed the counter with 2 plates balanced on her arm. That's Marcus Hale. Owns half the new developments on the waterfront. Be nice, girl. Men like him leave tips that pay rent. Amanda bit her tongue and grabbed a menu. She didn't care who he was. Men like that didn't see women like her. She was just another face in a uniform, another voice asking, "What'll you have?" Still, when she reached his table, she found herself smoothing her apron and forcing a smile that almost looked real. "Coffee?" she asked, keeping her voice steady, neutral. He looked up. And for one brief, sharp moment, Amanda forgot how to breathe. "Yes," he said simply. "Black." His voice was quiet but deep, the kind that stayed with you long after the sound faded. She nodded, jotted the order, and walked away like it was nothing. Like her pulse wasn't suddenly a little quicker. Marcus Hale hadn't meant to stop there. He didn't need diner food. He didn't need burnt coffee or the greasy scent of fried bacon clinging to his jacket. But it was late, and the house, his big, quiet house, felt too empty to walk into just yet. He hadn't been back to table 7 in months. Not since the funeral. 2 years. That's how long it had been. 2 years of waking up to silence. 2 years of being two people. Father and mother, to Lily. 2 years of moving through life like he was still underwater. The truth was, he'd stopped feeling anything a long time ago. Until tonight, when a woman with tired brown eyes and curls pulled back in a loose ponytail asked him if he wanted coffee. And for a moment, a small, flickering moment, he felt something other than the dull ache of existing. Amanda carried the coffee to his table with a practiced balance, her mind elsewhere. Men like him didn't notice girls like her. She knew that. She'd spent enough nights refilling mugs for men in suits who couldn't even bother to look her in the eye. But this one. There was something in the way he watched her when she set the cup down. Not judgment. Not pity. Just, seeing her. "Anything else?" she asked, her pen poised above the pad. "No," he said. A small pause. "Thank you." 2 words. Soft, almost quiet. Amanda forced a polite smile and walked away, telling herself it meant nothing. He came back the next Thursday. And the Thursday after that. Always late. Always quiet. Always alone. He ordered the same thing, black coffee and, occasionally, a slice of pie he never seemed to eat. And every time, Amanda told herself it was just a coincidence. That he wasn't coming for the coffee or the pie or the booth at table 7. But then there was the way his eyes would track her movements without being obvious, the way he'd give a small nod when she refilled his cup, like he'd been waiting for her to come back. And Amanda, well, she found herself looking forward to Thursday nights in a way that made her stomach twist with guilt. It wasn't until the fourth Thursday that she heard his laugh. It was quiet, almost startled, like he hadn't heard it himself in a long time. Amanda had been teasing one of the regulars, old Mr. Frank, about the crossword puzzle he couldn't seem to finish without her help. When she looked up, Marcus was watching, a faint smile pulling at the corner of his mouth. And then, for just a second, their eyes met. Amanda's breath caught. She looked away first. She always did. By the time her shift ended that night, the diner was empty, the counters wiped clean, the neon sign humming softly against the dark. Marcus was still there, nursing the last of his coffee, his suit jacket draped over the back of the booth. Long night? Amanda asked before she could stop herself, her voice quieter than usual. He looked up, his gaze steady, unreadable. Always, he said. Then, after a pause, what about you? Amanda blinked. Men like him didn't ask questions like that. She swallowed. Long enough, she said lightly, though the ache in her feet and the knot in her back begged to differ. He gave a small nod, like he understood more than she'd said. For a moment, the silence between them didn't feel awkward. It felt easy. And that scared Amanda more than she wanted to admit. The next morning, Amanda woke to her alarm buzzing, her mind still replaying that moment. His voice, that quiet, steady gaze. She shook her head, telling herself it was ridiculous. He was a millionaire, for crying out loud. She was just a waitress with overdue bills and a leaky faucet she couldn't afford to fix. But as she tied her apron around her waist and pulled her curls into the same loose ponytail, Amanda caught herself glancing at the clock. Thursday was still 6 days away. Saturday mornings at Dockside Diner were chaos. The kind of chaos Amanda had learned to dance through, balancing trays stacked with plates, dodging sticky-fingered kids, and keeping her smile in place even when her feet throbbed like they were on fire. The bell above the door jingled, but Amanda barely looked up. The lunch crowd was spilling in early, and she still had table 4 waiting on their omelets. She grabbed a coffee pot and spun toward the counter. That's when it happened. A blur of curls and pink barrettes darted into her side, almost knocking the pot from her hand. Amanda staggered, steadying herself just before disaster. Whoa there, sugar. The little girl looked up, big brown eyes blinking, her smile wide and unapologetic. You're pretty, the girl announced. Amanda blinked, startled, before a laugh bubbled out. Oh. Thank you. Like my Barbie, the girl added matter-of-factly, twisting one curl around her finger. Daddy says I shouldn't run in places like this, but I wanted to see if the pancakes are as good as the coffee. Amanda tilted her head. And do you drink coffee, Miss Barbie? The girl giggled, shaking her head so hard her curls bounced. No, silly. That's Daddy's thing. And that was when Amanda noticed him, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with that same quiet confidence as he stepped through the doorway. Marcus. His gaze landed on the girl, then shifted to Amanda. His jaw tightened slightly, almost like an apology. Lily, he said, his tone calm but firm. We've talked about running. The girl, Lily, huffed, crossing her arms. I wasn't running. I was speedwalking. Amanda bit back a smile. It's okay, she said quickly, waving it off. No harm done. Lily's frown vanished in an instant. She beamed up at Amanda again. I like you. Daddy's not married, you know. Marcus's eyes closed briefly, a silent God, help me. Lily, he warned. What? She said innocently, shrugging. Mommy's in heaven. You told me it's okay to talk about her. Amanda's breath caught. The lightness of the child's tone made the words sharper somehow, like a knife hidden in soft fabric. She glanced at Marcus, saw the faint shadow in his eyes, the tension in his jaw. "Hey," Amanda said gently, crouching so she was eye level with Lily. "I think that's really brave of you, sweetheart. And I bet your mommy was really pretty too." Lily grinned, satisfied with the answer, and skipped toward an empty booth like she owned the place. Amanda straightened slowly, her gaze catching Marcus's. "Sorry," he said quietly. "She's honest." Amanda found herself smiling despite the awkward twist in her stomach. "I like honest," she said softly. For a moment, something unspoken passed between them, something fragile and tentative, like the first threads of a spider's web. Then Marcus nodded once, almost stiffly, and followed his daughter to the booth. Amanda tried to shake it off as she went about her shift. Tried to ignore the way her eyes kept drifting toward table 7, toward the little girl coloring on a kid's menu and the man watching her with quiet patience. But every time she glanced over, Lily would wave like they were old friends, and Amanda couldn't help but wave back. By the time she walked over to take their order, the tight knot in her chest had loosened just a little. "What can I get you two?" she asked, pen poised above her pad. "Pancakes," Lily chirped immediately. "With strawberries. And whipped cream. And extra syrup. Please." Marcus raised a brow. "And maybe some eggs to balance that sugar rush." Lily sighed dramatically. "Fine. Eggs too. But no green stuff." Amanda laughed, scribbling down the order. "And for you?" "Coffee," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, deep, the kind that seemed to settle in Amanda's bones. "Black." Something about the familiarity of it made her chest ache. "Coming right up," she murmured, turning before he could see the strange swirl of emotions flickering across her face. By the time their food arrived, Lily had chattered her way through 2 entire stories, about her school's pet hamster, about the fairy garden she and her dad had started in the backyard, about how she could do a cartwheel almost perfectly now. Amanda found herself lingering at the table longer than she needed to, caught up in the warm ease of it. She didn't miss the way Marcus watched his daughter, his expression softening in a way that made her throat tighten. There was love there, deep and steady, but also something else. Something quiet and lonely. "Do you have kids?" Lily asked suddenly, her fork paused mid-air. Amanda blinked. "Me? Oh, no. No kids." "You should," Lily said seriously. "You'd be a really good mommy." Marcus cleared his throat, a quiet warning. "Lily." "What?" "It's true," Lily insisted, wide-eyed and innocent. Amanda swallowed hard, her cheeks warming. She didn't know what to say to that, so she just offered a soft smile and refilled Marcus's coffee instead. When they left, Lily waved so enthusiastically Amanda thought her arm might come off. "Bye, Amanda," she called. "See you next time." Marcus gave a small nod, his gaze steady but unreadable, before guiding his daughter out the door. Amanda stood there for a long moment after, tray balanced against her hip, her heart doing strange little flips she didn't want to examine too closely. That night, in her tiny apartment, Amanda replayed the afternoon in her mind. The way Lily had smiled. The quiet way Marcus had said thank you when she boxed up their leftovers. And that strange, fluttering ache in her chest that she hadn't felt in years. Across town, Marcus sat in his study, the house silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. Lily had gone to bed hours ago, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest, her curls fanned across her pillow. Marcus stared down at the untouched glass of bourbon in his hand, his thoughts tangled. He'd seen the way Amanda looked at his daughter, with patience, with warmth. He'd seen the way she smiled, not the forced kind people gave him because of his name or his bank account, but a real, unpolished kind of smile that reached her tired eyes. And for the first time in 2 years, Marcus felt something that wasn't grief or guilt. It scared the hell out of him. Sunday afternoon, Lily tugged at his sleeve as he sorted through work emails. "Daddy," she said, her tone dramatic. "Yes, bug?" "We should go back to the diner," she said solemnly. "Amanda might miss us." Marcus's lips twitched despite himself. "I'm sure she's fine, Lily." "No," Lily said, shaking her head, curls bouncing. "She likes us. I can tell. And you like her too. You look at her like you used to look at Mommy." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Then he crouched down so they were eye level, his voice quiet but firm. "Bug. Mommy was special. And nobody will ever replace her. Do you understand?" Lily tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. "But," she said finally, "Mommy would want you to smile again." Marcus swallowed hard, his throat tight. And for the first time, he didn't have an answer. Amanda almost turned back twice on the walk from the bus stop. The street was too quiet, too manicured, hedges trimmed like they'd never known a wild season, bougainvillea trained up iron trellises, driveways wide enough to land a helicopter. Her cheap sneakers squeaked on polished flagstone, and every step sounded like it didn't belong. She told herself she was only here because of the sketchbook. Lily's sketches had been a tumble of color and joy, a fairy garden, a dog that looked suspiciously like a cloud with legs, a woman with kind eyes and hair shaped like a halo. "Mommy," Lily had penciled above the drawing in careful letters. When Amanda found it under Table 7's napkin dispenser, she felt an ache she couldn't name. She had wrapped the book in a clean dish towel and tucked it into her tote like a fragile thing. The gate hummed open after she pressed the bell. A camera blinked on, a dark glass eye set in wrought iron. She smoothed her shirt out of reflex. No matter how carefully she washed it, the cotton had turned that washed-out gray that said too many shifts, too many spin cycles. Marcus was already on the porch when she stepped through. No suit jacket now. He'd rolled his sleeves to the elbow and undone the top button of his shirt, a small rebellion against whatever boardroom armor he usually wore. For a beat, neither of them said anything, as if still deciding whether this was a mistake. Amanda. Her name sounded different out here, softer. Lily left this. She held the sketchbook out with both hands. "I thought, she might want it for the weekend." He came down the steps. The afternoon light caught the fine lines at the corners of his eyes. He took the sketchbook and turned it in his hands like it weighed more than paper. "Thank you." A pause. "You didn't have to bring it all the way. It felt wrong to wait." Amanda shifted her weight. The porch smelled faintly of lemon oil and fresh-cut grass. "I was headed home anyway." "Daddy." Lily's voice shot from the side yard like a firework. A blur of pink socks and denim shorts rounded the corner, curls flying, a juice pouch clutched in one small hand. She saw the book and gasped. "You found it. Amanda, you found it." She flung herself at Amanda, hugging her waist with the dramatic relief of someone rescued at sea. "Come see the tent before it falls down again." "The tent?" Amanda looked from Lily to Marcus. He lifted a hand in a helpless, almost sheepish gesture. "Engineering project." "Art project," Lily corrected, grabbing Amanda's fingers as if they'd always belonged there. "And science. And math. Come on." The yard opened like a secret. Beyond a row of laurel hedges was a flat expanse of lawn, the grass clipped to velvet, the sky a wide pale bowl beginning to tint toward gold. Along the back fence, a scatter of raised beds held rosemary and mint and spiky tomato vines staked in neat rows. In the middle, staked between two lawn chairs, a monument to childhood stubbornness fluttered in the breeze, sheets, clothespins, and a coil of fairy lights, all draped into a lopsided teepee. Amanda laughed despite herself. "Oh, that's genius." Lily swelled with pride. "I measured. Daddy said you have to measure. She did, Marcus said, coming up behind them. Humor softened his mouth. She measured everything except the wind. The wind is rude, Lily announced, and crawled under the sheet flap on her knees. Amanda hesitated, suddenly conscious of the distance between her scuffed shoes and the white linen breathing in the afternoon air. Then Lily's fingers reappeared, expectant, and Amanda knelt, ducking inside. The world changed. The sunlight became milk-soft. The fairy lights stitched slow glimmers along the hem where the sheet met grass. Pillows formed a loose crescent moon on an old picnic blanket. Someone had set a metal lunchbox in the corner and labeled it provisions in purple crayon. This, Amanda said solemnly, setting the moment in a shape Lily would remember later, is an exceptionally great tent. A pleased hum rose from the childlike music. She crawled to the lunchbox and popped it open. Inside, 2 granola bars, 3 mismatched tea bags, and a handful of gummy bears shone like jewels. "We're camping," Lily said. "Not real camping, 'cause mosquitoes, but TV camping. That's when you make the lights pretty and tell stories and Daddy pretends he can whistle." "I can whistle," Marcus objected mildly from the entrance, crouching to peer in. His presence filled the space even before he ducked through. He folded into the tent with improbable neatness, one knee down, one arm braced, like a large animal trying not to upset a bird's nest. "I simply choose not to." "Prove it," Lily dared. He tried. The sound came out like a breeze finding a bottle. Lily giggled so hard she toppled onto Amanda's leg. Amanda had imagined wealth as hard and glassy, an arrangement of sharp surfaces that made warmth a liability. Inside the tent, it felt different. It felt like a place where something might heal, where the soft light didn't expose so much as forgive. She leaned back on her hands and let herself be there, for once not calculating how many minutes until the bus, not bracing for the next table, not translating every kindness into debt. "Tell your best story," Lily commanded, distributing gummy bears with ceremonial gravity, 2 for Amanda, 2 for Daddy, 1 for the tent monster, an empty corner, and 1 as a tax for herself. Amanda first. "My best." Amanda rolled a gummy between her fingers. She sifted through the file cabinet of childhood, looking for something true and not too dark. "When I was little, my grandma used to hang sheets on a line behind our building. In the afternoon, the wind would blow them big like this. She lifted the tent wall with her palm, the fairy lights trembled, and I'd stand behind them and pretend I was in a castle. Or a spaceship. Or hiding from a dragon. Sometimes the dragon was just the landlord." "You had a castle," Lily decided, serious as a judge. "And you escaped." "Escaped enough to be here," Amanda said, and only realized after it left her mouth that Marcus was watching her with that steady attention that made it hard to pretend she wasn't saying more than she meant. Lily turned to her father. "Daddy's turn." He cleared his throat lightly. "Once, when I was about your age, I decided to build a race car out of scrap wood I found in my grandfather's shed. It did not go fast." "Did it go at all?" Amanda asked, smiling. "It went downhill." Marcus's mouth curved. "Poorly. I wore scabs on both knees like medals for a week." "Mommy fixed them," Lily said softly, as if the fact could still reach backwards and care for the boy he'd been. The tent held the silence that followed. It wasn't heavy, it was reverent. Amanda brushed a grass blade off the blanket. "She sounds like someone who knew how to make things better." She did. The words were simple, but something behind them had shifted from stone to water. Elena believed in building small joys you could live inside. Saturday pancakes. Paper crowns. Lanterns in the trees even when there was nothing to celebrate except the evening showing up. He looked at the fairy lights. "I haven't been good at that part." "Not lately." "You built a tent," Lily argued, loyal to the present. "That counts." "It counts," Amanda agreed. The mercy of saying so surprised her. And these lights are perfect. Lily beamed. We can watch stars through the holes. She pointed at a pinprick constellation in the sheet. That one is the pancake spoon. The famous pancake spoon, Marcus said gravely. Sailors used it to navigate syrup seas. Amanda laughed, sudden and young. It startled her. The way laughter could open a door in the chest and let in air. She hadn't thought about doors in a long time. They played at naming constellations no one else would recognize: the sleepy rabbit, 2 clothespins and a wrinkle, the crown of pillows, the coffee cup that never empties, Lily's favorite, the shoe that doesn't squeak, Amanda's. Juice boxes appeared from the lunchbox. Someone found a deck of cards with cartoon astronauts. Time thinned and lengthened in that summer way that doesn't belong to clocks. Eventually, Lily sprawled half across Amanda's lap and half across her father's knee, boneless with satisfaction. Her voice grew loose around the edges. We should do a sleepover, she mumbled. Amanda can have my pillow. We can push our beds together. Daddy doesn't snore. Lily. Marcus's tone held both amusement and gentle warning. Amanda felt heat rise under her skin, a blush she couldn't will away. She smoothed one of Lily's curls behind her ear. Another day, Peanut, she said softly. If your dad says it's okay. It's okay someday, Marcus said, surprising himself first. The truth of it rang between them, tentative and real. When we make a plan. Plan, Lily repeated, and yawned like a cat. Amanda's in the plan. She drifted off as if she trusted the tent and the fairy lights and the adults to hold. The weight of her across Amanda's legs was warm, anchoring. Amanda looked at Marcus over Lily's sleeping crown. Something steady passed between them, a thread pulled quietly through the fabric without tearing it. Thank you for coming, he said, voice low, as if they were in church. For the book. For this. Thank you for letting me in. The words came before she could audition them for dignity. She swallowed. I know I don't fit exactly. His eyes lifted, and whatever defense he kept closest, money, grief, the practiced distance of a man constantly asked for something, didn't make it to the surface. You fit where my daughter laughs like that, he said simply. That matters more than marble countertops. Amanda glanced toward the house. Through the open doors, she could see the kitchen island the size of her entire bathroom, the pendant lights like moons, a bowl stacked with lemons so yellow they looked like props. The old ache of class rose, fast, mean, whispering don't mistake hospitality for belonging. She pressed her palm lightly against the blanket to feel the grass and the ground under it, the uncomplicated truth of here. I should get going, she murmured. Bus times are weird on Saturdays. Marcus nodded, practical returning like a coat shrugged on. He eased Lily onto the pillows, tucked a throw under her shoulder, and ducked out of the tent. Amanda followed, blinking in the open yard light, the sudden breadth of sky, the sound of a distant lawn mower from another perfect street. He walked her to the gate. The evening had moved from gold to the first hint of lavender. A couple of paper lanterns swung from the patio beam, some leftover celebration from before, perhaps, and for a second Amanda pictured them lit again, just because the evening had shown up. At the diner, he said, hands in pockets, the stance of a man unused to asking. You're there. Thursdays. Most. And weekends. Her mouth wanted to add table 7, but she let it go unsaid. I can swap if Lily forgets something else. We'll try not to weaponize forgetfulness, he said, lips tilting. Then, would you, sometime, like to have tea here? Or coffee, if you forgive my attempt at whistling. Tea. The gentleness of it undid her. It wasn't a performative reservation at a place with glass walls and napkins folded into origami birds. It was an invitation to a kitchen with lemon light and a backyard where fairy lights didn't ask her to be anyone else. I like tea, she said. Strong. Too much sugar. We can handle that. They stood looking at each other, both aware of how many steps there were between tea Sunday and anything that had a shape. But there was also the tent behind them and a sleeping child who had measured an afternoon into belonging, and maybe that was enough architecture for now. "Did you forget something?" he asked suddenly, and the words tugged a smile from her before she could stop it. It was a line people used at the diner counter when they wanted to be clever. From him, it felt like a small rope thrown across a distance. Amanda pretended to check her tote. "Yes." She tapped the space over her ribs, gentle. "But I think I'll come back for it." Something like relief flashed, quick and honest, across his face. He didn't reach for her and she didn't step closer, but the air changed anyway, becoming the kind of air that remembers you when you return. "Have a good evening, Amanda," he said. "You too, Marcus." She hesitated, then added, "Tell Lily her pancake spoon kept me from getting lost." "I will." The gate clicked behind her with the soft, expensive finality of good engineering. She started down the sidewalk, the bougainvillea glow on one side, the long curve of hedges on the other. The bus wouldn't come for 15 minutes, and the heat had a patience to it that made time expand. She breathed in the smell of cut grass and lemon oil and something new. A thin filament of hope stretched from a backyard tent to her sternum, taut enough to hum. At the stop, she sat on the metal bench and flipped the sketchbook open to the last page she hadn't dared study. A small drawing Lily had made of 3 stick figures under a triangle, fairy lights as little halos. The tallest figure had dark hair and long arms. The shortest had spirals for curls. The third had a ponytail and a smile that took up half her face. "Our tent," Lily had written, and then squeezed a heart into the corner with relentless optimism. Amanda let the book rest in her lap and stared down the road. Maybe she didn't fit the way she thought a person had to fit to matter. Maybe belonging could be a thing you built with blankets and string and an agreement to name the stars that no one else bothered to see. Across town, Marcus returned to the yard. He crouched at the tent flap and watched the steady rise and fall of his daughter's shoulders. The fairy lights made halos of the grass tips and sketched a pale ladder across the sheet. He reached up and thumbed one paper lantern on, then another, until the patio glowed like a quiet celebration. "Small joys," he said into the soft. "Elena, I'm trying." Lily stirred and settled with the careless grace only children are allowed. He sat beside the tent and listened to the neighborhood's evening sounds. A dog with opinions, a car door softened by distance, the low pulse of a song from a teenage bedroom somewhere. The house behind him wasn't less empty than it had been that morning, but tonight it didn't feel like a cavern. It felt like a place that could hold light without breaking. He thought of Amanda's hand smoothing Lily's hair, the way she'd said thank you for letting me in without apology, the steadiness in her eyes when she looked straight at the truth. He hadn't expected to want anything again. Wanting was dangerous, it asked you to risk what you had left. And yet, in the echo of the tent, the sweetness and the quiet, the ordinary magic of 3 people under a sheet, he found himself wanting something painfully simple, more of this. Another afternoon. Another laugh that startled him into remembering he was still alive. He turned the last lantern on. The light caught the edge of the tent and the corner of the picnic blanket and the metal lunchbox labeled provisions, as if to underline the joke, some provisions aren't food. Some are story, and light, and the ordinary courage of saying come in. When the wind lifted, the tent breathed, not collapsing this time but billowing, graceful, as if it had learned. Marcus set 2 small rocks on the corners, hands gentle, and the shape held. He looked up at the first pricks of real stars and found, absurdly, that he could almost see the pancake spoon. Another day, he whispered to it, to the tent, to the idea of a life repaired in pieces. "We'll make a plan." Behind him, the house waited, still large, still quiet, but now it had a path out to the yard where a child slept and lanterns burned for no reason other than evening had arrived. And out beyond the gate, somewhere between Bougainvillea and bus stop, a woman in a washed-out shirt was carrying a heart that had remembered how to hum. He stayed until the mosquitoes argued their case and the night turned the grass black. Then he lifted his daughter carefully, carried her inside, and left the lanterns lit a little longer, so the house would greet her with a soft celebration when she woke. Marcus hadn't planned to go back to the diner that Thursday. The week had been brutal, board meetings that felt like interrogations, contractors calling non-stop about a new waterfront project, and a city council that wanted his attention more than his daughter did. By Thursday evening, all he wanted was to go home, pour a drink, and shut out the world. But the house was too quiet. Too big. And somewhere between the car and the driveway, his hands had turned the wheel toward Dockside Diner instead. He told himself it was about the routine. That it was easier to think with a coffee in hand and the hum of strangers around him. But when he pushed open the glass door and the bell above chimed, his chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with caffeine. Because she was there. Amanda. Her hair was pulled back into its usual loose ponytail, her faded uniform clinging to her frame, and that same practiced half-smile on her lips. But when her eyes met his, just for a moment, something softened in her expression, like a quiet acknowledgement that he'd been expected, even if neither of them would admit it. "Table 7, she asked, voice steady. He nodded, and for the first time all day, the tension in his shoulders eased. Amanda didn't know what to do with herself that night. She kept her hands busy, refilling coffee cups, clearing plates, wiping down counters, but every time she caught sight of him sitting in his usual booth, something inside her twisted. She hated how much she noticed him. The way his jacket folded neatly beside him. The way his watch glinted when he reached for his cup. The way his gaze lingered, steady but never intrusive, whenever she came near. It was ridiculous. He was Marcus Hale. Wealthy. Powerful. Widower. A man with a life so far from hers it might as well have been on another planet. And she was just the waitress who knew how he liked his coffee. But still, when she set the mug in front of him, her fingers brushed the edge of the cup longer than they needed to. "Long day?" she asked. He looked up, those brown eyes steady on hers. "Every day feels long lately," he admitted quietly. Amanda swallowed. "Yeah. I get that." Something passed between them then, unspoken, fragile, and dangerous. That night, Amanda lay awake in her tiny apartment, the ceiling fan clicking with every rotation. She hated herself for replaying the look in his eyes, for feeling that stupid flutter in her chest every time she thought of his quiet voice. Men like Marcus Hale didn't notice women like her. They didn't sit in diners and drink bad coffee just to watch a waitress who didn't have anything to offer but a tired smile and a good memory for complicated orders. And yet, when she closed her eyes, she could still feel the weight of his gaze, steady, patient, as if he'd been waiting for her to see him too. Saturday morning came with a surprise. Amanda was halfway through the breakfast rush when the bell above the door chimed, and Lily burst in like a whirlwind, her curls bouncing, a grin splitting her face. "Amanda," she squealed, racing toward the counter. Amanda barely had time to set down her tray before Lily flung her arms around her waist. "You're here." Marcus followed behind her, slower, quieter, his hands in his pockets. His eyes met Amanda's briefly, a small, almost shy acknowledgement, before Lily tugged her hand and pulled her toward their usual booth. "You have to come over again," Lily said earnestly as Amanda wiped the table. "Daddy makes pancakes on Sundays, and we could build another tent, and maybe this time it won't fall down." Amanda laughed softly, shaking her head. "I don't know, sweetheart. I work Sundays." "Take a break," Lily urged. "Daddy can fix it. He fixes everything." Amanda hesitated, her gaze flicking to Marcus. He didn't look away this time. There was no smirk, no teasing. Just a quiet, steady look that said everything and nothing at once. That afternoon, Marcus found himself in his office, the blueprints for a new development spread across his desk. He stared at the neat lines and calculations without seeing any of them. He'd been careful for 2 years. Careful not to feel too much. careful not to let anyone close. It was safer that way, for him, for Lily, for the quiet memory of a woman he still loved more than he knew how to explain. But Amanda had slipped through his guard without even trying. It wasn't her smile or her laugh or the way she treated Lily like the center of the universe, though all of that made something in his chest ache in a way he hadn't felt in years. It was the way she never asked for anything. Never expected anything. She looked at him like a man, not a name. And that terrified him. Because wanting her felt like betrayal. Amanda felt the weight of it too. Every time she thought of that backyard, of the tent with the fairy lights and Lily's laughter, she felt caught between two worlds. One where she belonged, her tiny apartment, her endless shifts, her quiet, predictable life, and one where she didn't. She told herself it was better this way. That whatever was building between them was temporary, fragile, destined to break the moment reality pressed too hard. People like Marcus didn't choose women like her. Not really. But when Thursday came and he walked through the door, her heart betrayed her all over again. It was Lily who started the conversation neither of them could. "Daddy," she said one evening at dinner, swinging her legs under the table. "Do you think Amanda would like the lanterns?" Marcus looked up from his plate, startled. "The lanterns?" "The ones Mommy used to hang in the tree," Lily explained. "We could put them up again. Amanda would like them." Marcus set his fork down slowly. He hadn't touched those lanterns in 2 years. They'd sat in a box in the garage, gathering dust, because the thought of hanging them again felt impossible. Wrong, somehow. But Lily was watching him with those wide, hopeful eyes. And in the quiet that followed, Marcus realized something: it wasn't wrong to want light again. It wasn't betrayal to want to share it. "Maybe," he said finally, his voice quiet. "Maybe she would." That Sunday, Amanda found herself walking up the familiar path to the Hale house, a mix of nerves and anticipation swirling in her stomach. She'd told herself she was just there to return a container Lily had left at the diner. That it wasn't about Marcus. That it didn't mean anything. But when the gate opened and she saw the backyard lit with paper lanterns, soft and warm against the evening sky, something in her chest cracked wide open. Lily ran toward her, tugging her hand, dragging her toward the glow. "See? Daddy said we should put them up. For you." Amanda's throat tightened. "They're beautiful," she said softly, but her eyes weren't on the lanterns. They were on Marcus, standing under the tree, his hands in his pockets, watching her like she was the only thing that mattered. Later, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, Amanda found herself standing in the backyard, the lanterns swaying gently above her. Marcus joined her, quiet and steady, the distance between them charged with everything unspoken. "Thank you," she said, her voice low. "For this. For letting me be here." He studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, softly, "I should be the one thanking you." "For what?" "For making my daughter laugh again," he said simply. "For making this house feel alive." Amanda blinked hard, her throat tight. "Marcus. I don't know what this is," he admitted, the words raw and honest. "I just know that when you're here, it feels different. Better." Amanda swallowed, torn between the sharp edges of wanting and the fear of falling. "I don't belong in your world," she whispered. His gaze was steady. "Maybe my world needs to change." That night, Amanda lay awake long after she got home, staring at the ceiling and listening to the hum of the city outside her window. She didn't know where this thing between them was going, or if it even had a place to go. All she knew was that for the first time in years, her heart felt like it was waking up, and that terrified her more than anything. The first kiss didn't happen in the diner, or in the backyard under the fairy lights. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening, months after the night of the lanterns, when Marcus showed up at the diner near closing time. The streets outside glistened with rain, the neon open sign buzzing faintly in the window. Amanda was alone at the counter, wiping down the last table, her hair damp from the steady drizzle. "You'll catch a cold," Marcus said from the doorway, his voice low and warm. Amanda looked up sharply, startled to see him there. "And you'll ruin those shoes," she countered, her tone lighter than she felt. He stepped closer, the scent of rain clinging to his shirt, his gaze steady and unreadable. "Maybe it's worth it," he murmured. And then, carefully, almost reverently, he kissed her. The world outside blurred. The hum of the neon faded. And for the first time, neither of them ran from the truth that had been building between them from the very beginning. From there, everything changed, but also, nothing did. Marcus still drank his coffee black. Amanda still worked double shifts, though fewer now, because Marcus had gently, insistently, told her she didn't have to run herself ragged anymore. And Lily, sweet, fearless Lily, treated their quiet shift into something more, as though it had been written in the stars all along. "Told you," she'd said one afternoon, her curls bouncing as she danced around the kitchen. "I knew you'd marry my daddy. I just knew it." Amanda laughed, cheeks flushed. "Slow down, kiddo. We're not there yet." But Lily only grinned wider, like she knew something the grown-ups hadn't figured out yet. It took a year. A year of careful steps, of Marcus learning how to let someone in again, and Amanda learning how to believe she deserved the place she'd found in his life. But when he proposed, under the tree in the backyard, the same one where Lily had begged for lanterns that first night, Amanda didn't hesitate. The ring was simple, elegant, nothing flashy. But the way Marcus looked at her when he asked, like she was his second chance at life, made it the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. "God, yes." Lily shrieked from the porch, where she'd been, not spying, with her stuffed rabbit clutched in one arm. "I told you. I told you. We're gonna be a family." Marcus pulled Amanda into his arms and laughed, the sound breaking open something deep inside him, something that had been locked away for far too long. The wedding was small but perfect. The backyard was transformed with strings of fairy lights and paper lanterns, just like Lily had imagined. Amanda wore a dress that wasn't about price tags or designer labels, but about the way it made her feel, beautiful, radiant, chosen. Marcus stood at the altar in a tailored suit, his eyes never leaving hers as she walked toward him. Lily, beaming in a pale yellow dress, stood between them and clutched their hands together as if to make sure neither of them could let go. When Marcus said his vows, his voice shook, not with fear, but with something deeper. "You saved me," he said simply, his eyes glistening. "You and Lily. You reminded me that love isn't about replacing what was lost, but about honoring it by choosing to live again. And I will spend every day of my life choosing you." Amanda's tears spilled freely, her hands trembling as she held his. "And I'll spend every day reminding you," she whispered, "that you deserve this. That we deserve this. That even broken hearts can build something whole again." When they kissed, the backyard erupted in cheers, from the small cluster of friends, neighbors, and even the diner regulars who had come to love Amanda as their own. And above them, the lanterns swayed gently in the evening breeze, their soft glow a promise of everything still to come. The honeymoon was a quiet dream. Marcus had wanted to whisk her away somewhere extravagant, a private villa in Italy, a yacht in the Maldives. But Amanda had only shaken her head, her smile soft. "Someplace quiet," she'd said. "Someplace where it's just us." So they chose a small cottage by the ocean, where mornings were filled with the sound of waves and evenings with the hum of cicadas and the slow burn of sunsets melting into the horizon. Amanda spent the first morning sitting on the porch, her toes curled into the soft sand, a mug of coffee in her hands. Marcus came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his lips brushing her temple. "Still feels like a dream," she murmured. "It's real," he said, his voice steady. "You're mine. And I'm yours. That's as real as it gets." Amanda leaned back against him, her chest warm with something she'd never dared to imagine for herself, the quiet certainty of being loved, fully and without condition. For a long time, they stayed there in silence, the ocean whispering its approval, the future stretching out before them like an endless tide. On their last night, Marcus built a small fire on the beach. They sat on a blanket, their fingers tangled, their laughter easy and soft. "Do you ever think about how we started?" Amanda asked, her voice quiet over the crackle of the flames. "All the time," Marcus admitted. "Every time I walk into that diner, I remember what it felt like, to see you, to know something in my life had just shifted. I didn't understand it then. But I do now." Amanda turned to him, her eyes bright in the firelight. "And what's that?" "That you were always meant to be here," he said simply. Amanda smiled, tears prickling her eyes. "You know," she teased gently, "for a man who barely spoke to me the first few times, you've gotten pretty good at this." He laughed, leaning in to kiss her, slow and certain. "Practice," he murmured against her lips. "A lifetime of it, if you'll let me." And under the starlit sky, with the waves lapping gently against the shore, Amanda knew she would. Back home, the house no longer felt too big or too quiet. It felt full, of laughter, of love, of the small, ordinary moments that Marcus's late wife had once called the real magic. Sunday mornings meant pancakes in the kitchen, with Lily sitting cross-legged on the counter while Marcus flipped them, and Amanda leaned against the doorway, smiling at her little family. Evenings meant walks around the neighborhood, or reading together in the backyard under the familiar glow of the lanterns. And every night, when Marcus pulled her close and kissed her forehead before they fell asleep, Amanda still felt the hum in her chest, the one that had started that very first night in the tent. Love stories like this remind us that second chances are real, and that love often finds us when we least expect it. Where in the world are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories like Amanda and Marcus's journey.